Hi everyone, I'm Bonita from Pennies to Dollars, and today we are going to talk about food swaps that I use in the kitchen to save money. It got me to thinking with the holidays coming that we used to be so busy when we owned our grocery stores right before the holidays, right before Easter, right before Thanksgiving, right before Christmas, because everybody would be sending their family, their husbands in for the one thing they forgot when they got partway through a recipe. We even had one farmer that came in 3 times. He wouldn't even make it to the edge of town. His wife would call, he would come back. And on the last time that he came in, he said, I told her once I take off my boots, that's it. I'm not coming back in again. So I thought I would talk to you today about what I use when I'm cooking and I realize I don't have it. I live in the country, so running to the store is not an option if I find that I run out of something. I do not use dried onion. I feel like it costs a lot more than the fresh. So I always keep plenty of onions on hand to be able to chop them up and use them. I keep them frozen in my freezer, and I will swap out any type of onion, whether it's Vidalia, red, yellow, white, green, it doesn't matter. If I have an onion and it calls for an onion, it's going to get whatever type of onion that I have on hand, and it's never going to be dried. I don't even own a container of dried minced onion. Potatoes, I only use fresh. Frozen potatoes cost so much. So unless I have something that I especially want to make with like a frozen hash brown type potato, I don't buy fries. I don't buy any frozen potato. I will cut up and make potato wedges. I will make mashed potatoes. Even those boxed scallop and those boxed mashed and those bagged mashed are very expensive compared to what it takes to just make some homemade potatoes of any type. I will use reduced sale veggies instead of buying frozen veggies. I find that I can save a lot of money by doing that. I've seen a lot of people show those frozen mixed peppers and onions that they buy at Dollar Tree for like $1.25. I just buy things on sale and I chop them up and freeze them myself. I cannot see spending $1.25 for a small, tiny package of frozen onions and peppers that I can catch on sale or on clearance and do that myself. So I'm never without those frozen in my freezer. Those homemade canned soups versus the homemade canned soup made from scratch. My husband's gluten-free. We've got away from a lot of those canned goods because you just can't always trust what is in them, and I don't want to make him sick. So in my first cookbook, 50 Frugal Recipes When Cooking on a Budget, there is a homemade canned soup recipe. And then I just add my flavorings that I need to that. So I do not buy those canned soups anymore. I just make it from scratch at home. So if you find that you're running out of those things on a holiday, just look up how to make those on your own at home from scratch. You probably have all of the ingredients already, as well as those powdered onion soup mixes. All that those have in it is some sort of beef base or onion that's added in. And since my husband is gluten-free again, we can't buy those because yes, there's gluten even in the onion soup mix. So I just take some beef base and some onion and just use that instead of buying that expensive powdered soup mix. It's not necessary to finish your recipe. Yams are always fresh, never canned. There's hardly anything in those cans of yams, and they're full of corn syrup. And I have a daughter that's allergic to corn syrup. Fresh yams, I just bought some last week on sale for 49 cents a pound. You can't beat that. So I just avoid buying any of those canned yams. They're not as good. A lot of times they're stringy. The fresh ones are way better and you can get them cheaper. And then fresh milk versus boxed or canned. I hear people talking about buying the boxed milk at Dollar Tree for $1.25. I just buy the fresh. It's a lot cheaper per ounce. You can buy it in a smaller container if you need to. And if I happen to run out of that, I can use canned milk, but canned milk is way more expensive. I usually keep a couple of cans on hand to bake with if I need them, especially during the holiday season for things like fudge and pumpkin pie. But I will not just open them and substitute them for regular milk unless I have totally depleted my milk and I don't have time to run to the store. If I have a little bit left in the refrigerator from making a recipe, I may use that up in a recipe that calls for milk just because I don't know what I'm going to do with that evaporated milk and I don't want any food waste. But normally, I only use fresh milk in recipes unless it calls for another type. One of the exceptions that I do use to this rule is I will use the jarred minced garlic versus the fresh garlic. I feel like it goes farther for the money. I don't have to worry about it going bad in my refrigerator. I don't have to worry about using it up by a certain time, and it's always chopped and ready to go with great flavor. Oils that I keep in my house are things like generic shortening and one type of oil. Sometimes I have canola, sometimes olive, sometimes vegetable, but whatever I have on hand is what I cook with until I run out and get the next kind. I don't keep multiple types of oil in my house. And of course, I keep that reusable bacon grease to fry things with. I don't even buy canned beans anymore unless they're things like pork and beans for a specific recipe. I use dried beans for everything. I used to think I didn't have time to make things with dried beans, but they don't take very long at all. And lentils take even less time. I made lentil soup yesterday and it gets done super, super fast. You don't need to cook it all day. And the beans really do too. So we get in our head that we don't have time to make those things, but we do. And they only take a little while. And if you soak them overnight, they're even faster. But one can of those dried beans for about $1.25 will equal 4 to 5 cans of purchased beans, which also may have cost about $1.25 each. So look how much savings you can have by using the dried form. The same with homemade rice. I used to think I didn't have time to make rice. Well, if you have 20 minutes, you have time to make rice. And while you're making your other ingredients and mixing those together, you could be making your rice on the stove. You don't even need to use the Instapot to get it done quickly and add it to your recipe. Minute rice is so expensive. Even the off brands of instant rice is very expensive. You can spend about 4 times less buying the homemade old-fashioned dried rice and mixing it into your recipes. Some of the other either-ors that I have in my house are like crackers. A lot of people will have flavored crackers, Ritz crackers, oyster crackers, saltine crackers. When I make a soup, I use whichever cracker I have on hand in my soup. I don't keep all different types of crackers in the house. My husband has his own gluten-free crackers, and then I have some crackers that I will just substitute based on what I have on hand. With there only being 2 of us, there's no need for us to have excess types of crackers. If you haven't used like Ritz crackers in your soup, or saltines or oysters and interchange those, I encourage you to do that the next time instead of picking up that extra box of crackers. And also the same with bread, buns, hoagies, English muffins. If I have one type of those in the house, I won't keep all different types. I'll just keep the one. You can use that on hamburgers. You can use it on breakfast. You can use it on anything that calls for a bun rather than buying all of the different types of bread products. That will keep you from wasting some of those because we usually can't eat up all the different types that we buy at one time. And I've never understood when people buy breadcrumbs. So if I have some of those left, I will just use my blender, make them into breadcrumbs and freeze them because there's no reason to let any bread product go bad in our house. And then also cheeses. I will buy cheeses that are shredded on sale and then I just throw them in the freezer. But I will substitute mozzarella for the Italian cheese types. Either of those are interchangeable no matter what you're making. And then the taco cheese, the Colby mix, the cheddar cheese, those are generally interchangeable with anything that you're making. There's no need to have like 5 or 6 different types of shredded cheeses because you can interchange those based on what you're making. And then I usually just skip the nuts in recipes because they are too expensive. I hope some of these things have given you some ideas of some things that you can mark off of your grocery list for next week and just swap out. Let me know if you have any other great swaps in the comments. I hope you have a great day.